Respect isn't a uniform you take off, it's the silence you carry when no one's watching. Have you ever witnessed someone being judged not for who they are, but for what others assume they're not? Let us know in the comments section below. And if you believe in standing up for those who've served, subscribe and follow this story to the end. The bikers were already laughing before the second beer hit the table. Story Bones. Carter leaned forward, tattooed fingers drumming against the dented wood of the bar top, his grin wide and without apology. His vest, black leather, sleeveless, the iron fangs insignia sewn across the back, clung to his broad shoulders like a warning. He didn't need to speak loud to be heard. The silence that followed his jokes wasn't respect, it was caution. To the regulars at Max's Roadhouse, Bones was just part of the background, a wrecking ball in a town too tired to rebuild. But when he laughed, people listened, if only to know when it was time to leave. "You ever seen one of those fake vets?" he muttered, swirling his drink like it offended him. "You know, the ones who slap a sticker on their car and limp like they've been to war? But no scars, no story, just a patch, a look, and a scam." His crew, 5 of them tonight, barked out lazy agreement. They didn't really believe it all, but Bones had a way of making disbelief seem unpatriotic. "She probably got that Purple Heart off eBay," one of them said. Bones smirked, eyes narrowing. "You'd be surprised what you can buy now. Valor's just another costume." 15 miles away, Samantha Hasselhoff adjusted the soft beige strap of her prosthetic and quietly winced. It wasn't the pain. She was used to pain. It was the fit. The VA had taken months to process her last adjustment request, and by then her stump had changed shape. That was the problem with war wounds. They didn't stay frozen in time. They morphed with you, lived with you. Some louder than others. She tugged her jeans over the prosthetic with a practiced fluidity and grabbed her wallet off the nightstand. The house was modest. 2 bedrooms, dog-eared corners, a front porch that creaked like a tired old vet with bad knees. But it was hers. Every inch earned. She looked at the fridge. A single sticky note read, "Grocery run, don't forget the creamer." Or the Advil. It was the kind of list civilians made. The kind you made when your adrenaline didn't know the difference between war zones and Walmarts. She drove an old red Jeep, flag decal on the back window, disabled vet plates on the bumper. When she parked in the second-to-front handicap space at Rayburn's Market, she didn't hesitate, though she knew the looks were coming. They always came. 2 minutes inside, and she'd already picked up a cart, heading toward the refrigerated section. A child smiled at her from a passing cart. She smiled back. She liked kids. They didn't judge missing limbs like adults did. It was when she reached for a carton of milk that she heard it. "Hey, sweetheart, nice parking job." Her fingers froze. She didn't turn right away. She didn't need to. The voice was the kind you remember even if you only heard it once. Chewed up, sandpaper sharp, amused at its own joke. She slowly straightened, turned, and faced them. 3 of them, leather vests, boots, chain wallets, sunglasses still on indoors. One of them, short and thick around the middle, had the nerve to flick his chin at her prosthetic. Bones at the center smiled like a crocodile. "You got a license for that limp?" he asked. Samantha blinked. Then blinked again. She was tired. She could have walked away, should have. But today, she didn't want to. She stepped forward. Just once. "Yes," she said. "U.S. Army, 15 years, 2 deployments, field medic. The limp comes standard." The grin wavered just a second before Bones covered it. "Bet so," he said. "Funny. You don't look like a vet." Samantha tilted her head. "What's a vet supposed to look like?" "You tell me," Bones shrugged. "Looks to me like you're just trying to milk the system. Seen it before. One of those fake heroes. Makes the rest of us look bad." "The rest of us." She glanced at his vest. He wore a flag patch, upside down. She sighed through her nose, looked past him, and grabbed the milk. "You don't get to define what service looks like." Bones leaned in, too close. too fast. Then maybe show us your proof, he growled. Or are you just another phony using pity to score discounts and parking spots? She didn't back down, but she did take a breath. You think this is about a parking space? He grinned again, eyes dancing with the thrill of spectacle. I think you're just playing soldier. Probably wore the uniform for a Halloween party once. There was no crowd, yet. Just one cashier watching nervously, and a middle-aged man clutching a cereal box, pretending not to listen. Samantha leaned forward, matched his tone. Go ahead, she whispered. Keep going. Say the rest out loud, for everyone. Bones blinked, but something shifted then. Outside, unseen, 8 sets of combat boots stepped down from a pair of dark SUVs. Quiet, efficient. They weren't in uniform, but they didn't need to be. The Marines had arrived, and they weren't laughing. The cashier's hand hovered above the register, frozen mid-ring. Her name tag read Angela, but she wasn't the type to step in. Not yet. You could feel it, though, like air being pulled tight. Like the store was holding its breath. Samantha didn't flinch when Bones stepped even closer, his boot toe grazing the rubber of her cart's front wheel, close enough to smell the cheap cologne and bar smoke embedded in his jacket. One of his boys leaned against a nearby freezer, arms crossed, trying to look like muscle. The third was fiddling with his phone, recording, maybe, or pretending to. Let me guess, Bones sneered. They gave you a ribbon for tripping over a rock in boot camp. Samantha didn't move. Her voice didn't rise. She'd had rockets whistle past her closer than this man's breath. It was an IED. Southern Helmand. We were pulling a wounded interpreter from an overturned MRAP. His legs were gone. I only lost one. Bones paused for just a breath. That word, i.e., landed. Heavier than he expected. It was real. Too real. Sounds like a bedtime story, he said, recovering with a smirk. You got paperwork, photos, or is this one of those thank me for my service scams? Samantha leaned her elbows onto the cart handle, resting her weight slightly. Her eyes never left his. You think valor is proven by receipts? That made Bones shift just a hair. Nah, he said, but a lot of people act like it. From behind them, the automatic doors whooshed open. The noise barely registered until it was followed by a synchronized stomp of boots, heavy, purposeful. That kind of synchronized rhythm you only learn when you've marched with a unit, not walked into a bar. Gunnery Sergeant Daniel Gunny Clark was the first to step inside, his broad frame cutting a path straight through the entrance. He wasn't wearing anything military, not technically, but the stance, the haircut, and the quiet authority were unmistakable. 7 Marines followed, fanning out with practiced subtlety. They didn't speak. They didn't have to. Bones noticed first. His smirk faltered. The one at the freezer stood straight. The one with the phone instinctively pocketed it. Samantha didn't turn around. She knew the sound of Marines walking in formation. She'd been the only medic in a squad like that once. She knew exactly what came next. Gunny Clark walked up beside her, his voice even and deliberate. "Ma'am," he said, nodding to her, "is there a problem here?" Samantha's eyes finally left Bones, but only for a moment. "Not yet, Gunny, but one's been trying to start." Bones opened his mouth, closed it, laughed awkwardly. What is this, some kind of reunion?" "No," Gunny said. "It's backup." One of the younger Marines, Corporal Miguel Reyes, stepped forward and took a position between Samantha and Bones. Not touching, not threatening, just existing like a wall made of resolve and years of training. The others spread out, one at the register near Angela, who visibly relaxed, another by the frozen section. They weren't crowding, they were protecting. "You mocking a veteran, son?" Gunny asked, tone still calm. Too calm. "I didn't know she was," Bones began. "That's the point," Samantha said. "You assumed." Gunny looked him over like a drill instructor sizing up a sorry recruit on day one. What unit were you in? You said we earlier. The rest of us. What branch? Bones's throat bobbed. I never served, but I support. You don't get to say that, Gunny interrupted. Not after mocking someone who carried wounded off the battlefield while you played tough guy with a beer in one hand and a YouTube channel in the other. One of the bikers shifted nervously. Hey, we didn't mean nothing. We were just messing around. That woman, Gunny gestured to Samantha, stood in places most men wouldn't last a day. She lost a limb doing her job. You lost your dignity trying to impress a TikTok crowd. Angela, emboldened by the shift, spoke up from behind the register. They've been in here before, loud, harassing. This is the worst, but it's not the first. Samantha stepped forward, speaking more to the room now than to Bones. It's not about the comments. It's about the silence that follows. The people who look away. The ones who let the loudest person in the room define truth. Reyes nodded. We've seen this before, civilians talking like warriors. Warriors being treated like fakes. Another Marine. Sergeant Olivia Barnes crossed her arms and looked directly at the biker holding his phone. Post that video. Let people see what it looks like when a pack of bullies goes quiet the minute someone with real backbone shows up. Bones stepped back, visibly rattled. We're leaving? You're staying until the deputy arrives, Gunny said. Angela was already dialing. They're on their way. For a moment no one moved. Then Bones huffed and backed toward the door, his crew falling behind him like scolded dogs. One tried to mutter something under his breath, but a quick glance from Gunny silenced him faster than any threat ever could. As the doors closed behind them, a ripple of quiet spread through the store. A few shoppers had come closer during the scene, watching from behind displays or end caps. Now, one by one, they began to move forward. Nods, soft thank yous. A hand on Samantha's shoulder. She didn't cry, not yet. But something inside her finally exhaled. Gunny turned to her. You okay, Sergeant? Staff Sergeant, she corrected, lips tugging into the faintest smile. But yeah, I am now. He smiled back. I figured as much. In the silence that followed, one of the younger Marines saluted her. She didn't return it. Instead, she stepped forward and hugged him. No ribbons, no speeches, just respect. The kind you can't fake, buy, or demand. The kind you earn. The footage hit local social media before the bikers even made it out of town. No hashtags, no filters, no dramatic music, just a raw, handheld phone video posted by a teenage boy in a flannel hoodie who had been standing near the energy drinks when the shouting started. By the time the Marines filled the frame, his camera was already rolling. It caught everything, the smirks, the confrontation, the silence when Bones got called out, and the moment Samantha stood without flinching as a wall of uniformed pride formed behind her. Within 10 minutes, the video had over 2,000 views. By 20,000. By the time Samantha had driven back home and set her grocery bags on the counter, it was nearing 6 figures. She didn't know any of this, not yet. Her hands were still shaking from gripping the steering wheel too tightly. She hadn't said much after leaving the store. The Marines had offered to escort her, but she politely declined. She didn't want a parade. She wanted peace. A normal afternoon where the only thing people stared at was the expiration date on the milk carton. The silence in her kitchen was too much. She turned on the radio. Country station, static, heavy, but familiar, and moved around her small home like she was defusing landmines. Dog food. Trash. Mail. It was all mechanical, but necessary. Anything to keep from thinking about the sick feeling in her stomach. Because as much as those men had embarrassed themselves, and as much as the Marines had humbled them, part of her still felt cracked open. Humiliation did that. It lingered even after justice arrived. Her phone vibrated across the counter. 1 missed call. Then 2. Then a text from a number she didn't recognize. Ma'am, I think the internet just found out who you are. She blinked. Read it again. Another buzz. This one from her old CO, now retired and teaching at a community college in Arizona. "Sam, is this really you in the video? Just saw it on Twitter. Proud of you, kiddo." Then another. "Is this the badass medic from Cop Shank? Can't believe I ran into your story like this. You're a legend." She pulled up her browser and typed her name. By the third suggestion, it auto-imperialed. Samantha Hasselhoff. Veteran grocery video. And there it was. Grainy footage, frozen still of her face mid-sentence, her jaw firm, her eyes locked onto bones with surgical precision. Below the video were comments, hundreds, thousands. "This woman is tougher than anyone in that store." "Where do I send flowers or medals?" she said, more with a stare than most say with speeches. There were jokes, too, but not at her expense. Bikers mocked the wrong woman and caught a battalion of consequences. "Someone get those bikers an Uber to the burn unit." She stared at the screen for a long moment. Then, quietly, she shut her laptop. She didn't want to become a symbol. Symbols don't sleep. Symbols don't grieve. Symbols don't have scars they lotion every night and flashbacks they suppress during fireworks season. The next morning, a knock came. Not a light one. This was the kind of knock that didn't ask. It announced. When she opened the door, Gunny Clark stood there again, clean jeans, collared shirt, and something unfamiliar in his hand. A newspaper. He handed it to her without a word. Front page. Wounded warrior confronts harassment backed by her brothers and sisters in arms. Below it, a photo not from the video but clearly snapped from inside the store, her profile, strong, still, surrounded by Marines. A single headline beneath. "Respect earned." Samantha looked at the paper, then up at him. "Gunny," she said softly, "I didn't want this." "I know," he replied, "but sometimes the country needs reminding." "Of what?" "That the fight doesn't end when you come home. That the uniform may come off, but the courage doesn't." Behind him a car idled. 2 more Marines waited inside, nodding as she glanced at them. They looked uncomfortable in civilian clothes, like wolves in sheep's wool. "We're headed to a vet center panel down in Little Falls," Gunny said. "They asked for a speaker. Word got around." She shook her head. "I'm not a speaker." "You don't have to be," he said. "Just be the woman in that store again." She hesitated, then asked, "What if I mess it up?" He grinned. "Then we stand behind you. Again." That afternoon, she stood before 60 veterans, 17 civilians, 2 Gold Star mothers, and a high school JROTC class that had bussed in just to see her speak. She only said a few things. About silence, about strength, about knowing your worth when the world wants you to question it. They gave her a standing ovation. But the part she remembered most was the girl in the 3rd row, maybe 16, hair in a tight bun, who came up to her afterward and said, "I didn't think I could serve. I thought I didn't look the part, but maybe I was wrong." Samantha crouched beside her, looked her in the eyes, and whispered, "You get to define what service looks like. No one else." When she stood again, the prosthetic clicked slightly. Too much weight on it, but she didn't adjust. She didn't hide it. He just walked forward. "Let me know when you're ready for Act 2, Section 2, When the World Watches. This will be the final part of the story and will bring everything full circle with a powerful and happy resolution." Samantha stood at her front porch, watching a delivery van pull away. Another box, another handwritten note from someone she'd never met. "Thank you for reminding us what courage looks like." Inside the box was a hand-carved wooden plaque. No branding, no signature, just the words, "Service doesn't end, it transforms." She'd received dozens of things over the past week. Quilts from veteran support groups, framed artwork, care packages from school kids in 4 different states. A veteran-owned coffee company even named a roast after her, Hasselhoff's Backbone Blend. The attention was overwhelming, surreal, and oddly comforting. The bikers had gone silent. No public apology, no viral counter-defense, just silence. And sometimes silence was enough. Deputy Sheriff Mark Harlan had paid her a visit after the incident. He stood on the same porch, hat in hand, posture stiff, like he still wasn't sure how to handle someone like her. Someone who'd seen more than most men in uniform ever would. "I just came by to tell you," he said, shifting from boot to boot, "that the Iron Fangs won't be bothering anyone around here anymore. 2 of them had warrants. Others were trespassing, enough to make it stick. You probably won't see them again." She had nodded, quietly grateful. But she hadn't needed the update. She'd felt it. The shift. The awareness. Things were different now. At Rayburn's market, Angela waved every time she came in. There was a little Veterans Welcome Here sign taped to the register. A local Boy Scout troop had repainted the handicap parking stripes in bright white, added a flag icon, and planted a tiny sign beside it with Samantha's name underneath. She'd tried to tell them not to, but they said it wasn't about her. It was about who she represented. She still kept things simple, still limped with grace, still wore the same old army hoodie when she went out. But now, when strangers saw her, they didn't look away. They nodded. They smiled. A few saluted, unsure if it was appropriate, but trying their best. One morning, a familiar black SUV pulled into her driveway. She didn't need to ask. Gunny stepped out first, coffee in one hand, envelope in the other. "I know," she said before he could speak. "You've got that face, like you're about to ask me to do something again." He smirked. "Is it that obvious? What is it this time? Public service announcement, local school assembly, arm wrestle the mayor?" "Actually," he said, holding out the envelope, "they want to give you something." She opened it. Inside was a formal letter. Thick cardstock, the seal of the Department of Veterans Affairs in the top corner. "In recognition of exceptional courage, service, and post-military advocacy, Staff Sergeant Samantha Hasselhoff is hereby awarded the Outstanding Veteran Leadership Commendation." Signed. Stamped. She didn't smile right away. She just stared at it for a while, like holding it too tightly might make it disappear. "I don't think I deserve this," she whispered. Gunny tilted his head. "Most who do never think they do." There would be a ceremony next week. Flags, speeches, cameras. She wasn't sure she was ready for that part, but something in her was changing, the part of her that always hid the limp, that minimized the medal on her wall, that let others define her story. That part was fading. When the day came, she stood behind the podium in a room full of uniforms, some crisp, some worn, some bursting at the seams, veterans from wars old and new, Gold Star families, students, neighbors. She didn't write a speech. She just spoke. "I didn't ask for a moment like this, but when it came, I didn't step away from it either. That's what service teaches you. You don't run from trouble. You run toward it, even when your hands shake, even when your knees hurt, even when you think someone else could do it better." The truth is, I didn't stand alone that day. I had 8 Marines behind me. I had millions of veterans beside me, and I had all of you, people I've never met, carrying me forward. After. The lesson here isn't that I faced down a bully. It's that I didn't have to face him alone. Not really. So if you ever find yourself cornered, misunderstood, disrespected, remember, there's a whole community standing behind you. And if you're fighting back, some dope or anybody that's too loud, and we don't care what patch is on your sleeve. If you served, you belong. If you sacrificed, you matter. And if you carry invisible wounds, we see you. The room stood, not all at once, not like a rehearsed ovation, but gradually, one person at a time, like the story had finally caught up to them and their legs couldn't sit still anymore. After the ceremony, a teenage girl with braces approached her, flanked by parents who looked nervous. The girl said, My school's doing an essay contest about heroes. I want to write about you." Samantha knelt slightly to meet her eyes. "Then don't write about what happened in the store," she said gently. "Write about what happened after." Later that evening she sat on her porch again, dog curled at her feet, a folded flag resting on her lap, her prosthetic unstrapped and resting against the wall beside her. She closed her eyes. She didn't see the parking lot anymore. She saw the Marines. She saw the kid with the phone. She saw the faces in the crowd rising one by one, and for the first time in years, Samantha Hasselhoff didn't feel like she was waiting for the world to catch up to her worth. The world was watching, and had finally understood.